So I had the privilege of going to breakfast with a friend today, and there was a conversation that was struck up about translations. It's quite fascinating. I know there's a lot of other people out there who talk about translations and different types of English translations, and it's quite fascinating the study of translation. I've done a little bit in my schoolwork at the King's University. Um, and dealing with Hebrew and having taken a year of Hebrew, you learn how to translate. And so when you look at English translations, obviously there is no word for word translation for either Greek or Hebrew. You can get as close as you can to word for word. However, it's when you go to Hebrew, it's going to be extremely raw. There's going to be things that you have to inflect into the particular sentence in order for it to make sense to an English reader. And then even within the Greek, there are things that you have to inflect because there's not a word in English to communicate what's taking place in the Greek. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just more like it's ands, buts, it things like that, where it's like small words that if you don't have those transitional words, it's not going to make sense. Um, the other thing that's fascinating is we look at the plethora of English translations, and he was like, the NIV, and there's the NLT and things like that, and those translations are good. They're good translations, and so you look at things that were said about those uh, from other people, and he's like, can we trust them? I'm like, yeah, you can trust them. You just got to read what they put in the footnotes. You got to read the preface so you understand what the translation philosophy is. And it's funny, we as English speakers get really, really jaded by a plethora of information that we have in terms of translations. Yet we can use those to get a better picture of what was originally said in the actual language. Because some translations are thought for thought, and other translations are dynamic, and other translations are trying to be word for word. And this is something that the scholarship for any translation tries to do: is they try to accurately depict what's taking place in the historical narrative, and it's really hard to do. It's not a perfect science. There's nothing within translation that is perfect. It's really difficult because you have to wrestle with how to decipher, per se, or to translate a particular sentence in a way that's faithful to the text. And it's not necessarily something that I have had the opportunity to do because I'm still a student in terms of working on a translation. But when you do Hebrew or Greek, as I have in terms of 1 year of study or more, you learn that translating something from one language to another isn't easy. It's very difficult. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work to get the verbiage correct. And so when we're criticizing a particular translation, I think we have to realize that the people who did it were also trying to be faithful to the text and remain understanding of the fact that these particular translations are not just thrown together in terms of the big ones. I'm not saying like we're not talking like ones that have been put together in terms of being more of a paraphrase, but more of like, hey, we're trying to get the thought or the word for word, or we're trying to do dynamic translation. We have to realize that these particular translations are put together so that they are trying to accurately represent what's being said in the original language. That's it. And that was sort of the discussion, and something that's food for thought for those of you who are out there on the YouTube. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll talk to y'all later.